So hello again, I am Daphne and I work with Januchowski-Hartley at the Fire Lab of Bangor University. Today I am going to walk you through one of Fire Lab's engagement and communication projects called Underwater Haiku. The reason why I wanted to share more about this project today is because we initially planned it as a series of indoors and in-person workshops and activities to engage with a local community based in Swansea's Taliesin Centre. And we wanted to talk and engage with communities about Swansea's local river, the Tower. But as we all know, and it's the subject of what we all talk about, indoors and in-person activities had to stop and change when the COVID-19 pandemic unfolded in January 2020. It is still our hope, though, that the Underwater Haiku project will close with an indoors in-person community exhibit in Oriel Science in Swansea. So, the Underwater Haiku series is a collaborative initiative merging poetry, visual arts, and science. And through our projects, we ask people to compose haiku and other written reflections and visualizations about rivers and their underwater environments based on prompts generated by our project team. Under the Underwater Haiku umbrella, one can find three main different haiku writing projects. First one came Exquisite Corpse creation that launched in April 2020. And this one resulted in the creation of a secondary project, Underwater Words 1 and 2. The second project is Underwater Haiku Collaborative Competition that went public in July 2020. And the third and currently under preparation will be the Join Us Underwater in Oriel Science. And it is going to run throughout April, May, and hopefully September 2022. As you will see, the journey of our project constantly shifted and adjusted its character from in-person to online, depending on the governmental restrictions. And as a result, from 2020 up to now, our approach, knowledge, and creative solutions have towards the events have also developed and changed very, very much. More specifically, the Exquisite Corpse was initially envisioned as a series of in-person workshops taking place in specifically designed spaces to bring people together to engage, share, and be creative through haiku composition about rivers and underwater environments. With the global pandemic arising, we had to redesign, and we moved forward from in-person to online activities, as most of the people did. And the Exquisite Corpse game that we chose initially was invented by the Surrealists due to the belief that through free play, neglected associations of one's mind can be surfaced. So what we did is that we redesigned the game, and from a parlor game, we transformed it into an online game where people were asked to contribute one haiku line that collectively co-created a larger poem. Our aim was to use the large poem to create a secondary sci-art creation and continue the creative process and continue working with the same materials, but I'll share about this later. What we did, how we approached it, is that we used different invitations and informational sheets shared online that featured hybrid creatures that we designed in the lab to encourage participation and interest by people from different backgrounds. The co-created Exquisite Corpse poem, when ready, was collaged with the octal hybrid as a thank you to all contributors. And then the Underwater Words 1 and 2 video artworks were further created from the Exquisite Corpse poem. We initially intended these to be for in-person viewings, but however, the lockdown in the UK had not ended. So the digital format of the video art allowed us to adapt and share the creations with a broad audience through YouTube and other online platforms. The Underwater World's initial video was presented via YouTube on June 2020. And since then, nearly 400 people have viewed the artwork. As the world started adapting to the pandemic, our hopes for in-person engagement flourished once again. And so with some optimism, we created the digital diptych made of these two digital videos that was presented in Mission Gallery in Swansea from June to July 2021. The challenges we faced for this in-person exhibition, and in particular the adaptations we had to make, might be of interest to you because, okay, so I don't know if you know Mission Gallery at all, but the space is very small, and because of the restrictions, but at the time only 4 members of the public were allowed to be indoors at the same time. The video had sound, but the use of headphones provided by the gallery was restricted again due to COVID health and safety issues. So how did we adapt? For the first restriction, we smiled, and we were happy that at least some people could experience the artwork in person. For the second issue, it was trickier though. So we could not keep the volume high, so to maintain social distances in such a small gallery. So instead, we decided to present it with a low volume, which was not the optimal, it was not optimal due to specific technical feature of the video and for engagement or inclusivity reasons. So we created a beta version, hoping to fix the sound issue. But then again, once this happened, another challenge appeared because another artwork in the main gallery space had sound. And what did we do? We adapted again and agreed to present in low volume and created a handout for the viewers with the 2 poems. Regardless of the problems, we are in general very happy that we got to present the artwork, and 375 visitors engaged with the artwork, and according to Mission Gallery personnel, a number of people expressed their interest in the project itself. So we continued with our online activities in 2020. And the collaborative collection was initiated and ran throughout the second half of the year. Again, bringing people together to write haiku about rivers and about being underwater. For the collaborative competition, we used our 4 hybrid visual prompts presented in a different form. You can see in your screens, this is the butterbird, the octowl, the stag whale, and the saltfly. The prompts were released once a day during a week, and responses were only open for 1 week. We used, for both projects, we used Google Sheets for the participants to respond to us. So haiku complete in 575 syllable count were submitted by more than 30 contributors in English, Welsh, Spanish, Greek, and Mongolian. And we received 97 haiku in total. And then we asked all contributors, as well as the 3 of us leading the project, to vote on the top 5 haiku to be published as a booklet. And that booklet was called Underwater Haiku, a collaborative collection. Up to now, copies of this booklet have been distributed in their physical form through FireLab, and the online version is available to all through our website. There is the link at the bottom of the slide if anyone is interested. Almost 2 years after our original ideas for engaging events and underwater themed spaces, we now return, or hope to return, to in person with Join Us Underwater exhibit in Oral Science at the first half of 2022. The Join Us Underwater exhibit will be interactive and draw on the existing materials from Old Underwater Haiku project to engage and inspire further creative activities for its visitors. We will collect words, drawings, and other such markings on various mediums like blackboards, whiteboards, carbon copy papers that we will have available in the venue. And we will bring together our visitors' contributions. And once again, we will aim to create yet another co-created sci-art artwork talking about rivers and underwater environments. So through our journey, we believe that we have learned how to be more dynamic, flowing, and flexible. For us, it is also a practice of non-attachment to ideas and expectations, because after all, our collaboration and engagement with communities is grounded by collaging ideas and continually creating from a given set of materials. Well, like the river that inspires us, we can always recreate our path whether it's indoors or outdoors, in person or online or otherwise, because we see it as part of our creative process. From our perspective, the in-person event is not over. It has simply evolved, and we, as the facilitators and creators, have learned through this journey how to use better technology, how to better use technology creatively, to bring us even closer, regardless of the physical distance. Thank you very much for your attention. Any questions?
There are questions that are appearing in the chat. Daphne, do you want me to read them to you?
I can also read them. Let's see. Thank you. Screen both artworks. Not sure. It's lovely, actually. Would you like to share more about how you use the Exquisite Corpses in your art projects? Actually, this is very, very nice to read, Wanda.
Yeah, Lindsay's holding one up now. We've used them, as I've been working with Lindsay, we've used them right from the beginning of lockdown and starting to work with Utopia Spark and Cronecast. And in our meetings, I'm just wondering if it's something to do with the surrealism of the situation. We were doing surrealist festivals. Sarah will talk more about those. And also, I think I'm a surrealist anyway, so I tend to use them a lot throughout my practice, to be honest. But they just seem to be particularly relevant. And we've also been particularly interested in the visual composition and makeup of Zoom, watching Zoom, seeing yourself, the kind of a visual component of it. And we've done physical exquisite corpses by standing up, say, one of you would be the head and I could be the middle, and then if someone stood on their chair, they would be, and we can twist it and make it more interesting, and then someone else can be the bottom. So and then take a screenshot of it. So we've sort of been playing with visual aspects and moving around on Zoom, but also doing them in writing and in some of the workshops that we've done with various communities. And yeah, oh, there we are, Sarah's.
Oh my God.
That we did in a meeting last week. Yeah, that's a Zoom one. So it's just, yeah, it's nice to see different ways of using them. Yeah, an old friend. It's always useful, I think, in
It is indeed. It is indeed. It's something,
Yeah.
you know, it's an old friend that comes to help you.
Yeah.
When you don't know how to approach a situation, maybe, or when you try to explain. But for us, I guess haiku use comes also from Stephanie Januchowski-Hartley, because from, let's say, from the group, she's the one who works more with poetry, and yeah, haiku, the haiku direction mostly came from her.
Sarah has a question, or her golden hand is up.
Gold, my favorite color. She would have given me the
I
choice.
remember that, Sarah. I remember that.
Oh yeah. I see, I forgot about that. How could I? I was particularly interested in the in using the different media, and I was wondering, and that now goes a bit more in the subject of all these activities, namely rivers, whether, you know, the translation of one thing that you planned in a certain media into another one. And this shift often makes things visible that you haven't seen before. And do you have an example of, you know, how this media trajectory may be uncovered, I don't know, new knowledge, how we academics like to say?
I think that from my perspective, it is how, you know, by seeing how people actually reacted to these calls, and how even, you know, because afterwards, in some instances, we contacted the participants, and they shared a bit more about how they felt when they participated in these activities. For me, it was what was very interesting is that it seemed like, you know, thoughts and memories that were deep, somehow deeper, hidden deeper inside them, related to our theme, did appear through their words. And I mean, there is an amazing selection of vocabulary. And for me, that I'm not a native English speaker, I have to admit that I learned so many different words relating to the underwater. And yeah, I don't know if this answers your question, but yeah, they came to the surface. Thoughts, images, was amazing.
Can I ask another question about language? You said you learned a lot of underwater words, but I was also very curious, since you got submissions from other places, and you said Mongolia was one. Were the submissions in all different languages? And if so, did you think of incorporating the language in which the lines were written rather than translating them and making them somewhat seamless in a singular language?
Yes, very nice question indeed. So when we were asking, because we did ask for the submissions to be given to us in any language they would prefer, we were asking usually for a translation from the people, so that to be safe. And then in the booklet, we used the original languages. But for the original languages, for each one of the original languages, we tried to give, you know, if the person never submitted a translation, we tried to create a translation that one can find by the end of the book. Yeah, because I particularly remember that the Greek versions, I'm pretty sure I did the translation for this, and this was a magnificent experience as well, you know, doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that if without the translation, it would have a different texture, you know, then words would appear as glyphs or sounds, and if there's an audio component, there's a sonic element to the tones of different languages that people could hear without needing to speak them.
That's very interesting, and that's a very, very nice idea, actually, about, you know, since we are designing and the last one of our activities, the audio part of that could be, yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, actually.
Sure. I'd love to see it. Can I ask, my other question for you is, since it was originally designed as an in-person, then went online, what are the things that you want to preserve from your experience of having to respond to a global pandemic and inventing a new way of, you know, collecting information and images, so that when you go back in person, you retain some of the sort of wonders of discovery and invention?
Yeah, I think that from my point of view, I would like to preserve flexibility, because as an artist, from this side of my work anyway, I was not as flexible and as open to negotiate, and I think it's something that worth preserving. I don't know if Stephanie has something to add on that. I think she has, because it's you know, our work is closely connected.
So the question was about how we would retain things from the online. Yeah, I think that the awareness of making it accessible in different ways. So we also, when we had things visual, we made sure we had text-based translations for people who may not work in the visual. So I think that sometimes when you work in person, maybe these things don't necessarily come immediately to mind, but I think when we had to start working with the element of flexibility, this opens our minds even broader, like, oh, well, since we're already being flexible, let's keep going with this. And so it has, I think, benefits for inclusivity with these projects going forward, for example. And also thinking about, well, when we're focused on the local, how can we also take that out to other people? So in this case, we're taking something that we did online with people from different parts of the world who joined in, and bringing it to the local, but then thinking again, how maybe we could take that back in the other direction, and what that would mean. Would it be different or similar, or what could we learn from that experience as well?
Right, because then there's so many specific locals within each of the individual geographies. So if each contributor decided to host something parallel, it could grow. Like,
yes, exactly.
can I ask how you do the Exquisite Corpse? Because for instance, in my screen, Sarah's on one side and Lindsay's on the other. Wanda's there, but does that look the same for everybody, or is there a way to arrange everyone?
We have researched that, and no, it doesn't always work. You can get some quite amusing disjunctions by trying it. Yes, sometimes they seem to be lining up the same, but then somebody will be right out of it. So that can be random. We did quite a few on one time when there were only 3 of us, so we managed to line
I see, right.
You can move the boxes around. You know, you can move them if you want to.
But if I move you, for instance, I've just moved you to the top. Are you the top for everybody or just for me?
No, just for you, but you can move them around. But if you were all in agreement, we could all agree to move them to the same places. You just click and drag. Yeah.
Which is already a community or collaborative activity then.
Yeah.
You know, agree on where to place people.
That's right. Yeah, right. Like sitting at a table.
Yeah. Somebody has to be the bottom. When I did a couple with Lindsay and Lisa, I was the legs, both ones that we did, which I still resent, whereas they were alternately the heads and the middles. And I nearly fell off my chair.
Who did the drawings of the sea creatures?
Yeah. So yes, they're not drawings per se, they are collages. This is an important part of our work, but I am responsible for these collages mostly with lots of help, ideas, creative support, and actually so much and so many ideas can creative support that I claim it's a co-creation, but yeah, it's Fire Lab did this in the end. Would you like to say more on how? Sorry,
Yeah, I was going to say it's been a really good learning for other people in the team who are more geographers or scientists, because it really made them come out of a comfort zone. And I think in some ways it was like, whoa, what is going on? And it also for us, like me and Daphne working together and figuring out where boundaries are, where boundaries don't need to be, you know, what is our comfort? Because I guess this will be different with every set of collaborators. And it's really interesting trying to publish on this work and what people define different things as, what is sci art, what isn't. You know, everything has a definition. So we have learned a lot just by this creation of these hybrids, for example. Yeah.
I think that from my point of view, I think these hybrids just somehow incorporate all the hybridization we went throughout this time. I mean, so many different perspectives merged together in order to communicate and engage, and don't forget, in order not to forget that we are not alone, and now that we are all together.
But that's what I was especially thinking of in coming back together in some ways, that we don't take for granted that we had to come up with these forms, and that one, the feelings of isolation and the negotiation of how to invent something, the presumptions that we, you know, the forces of habits that we had to be rewired. And so to sort of reset neural impulses as well as not take things for granted is something that I hope we never, I fear that everything would be too easy to slip into previous conventions.
Sometimes yes, but then maybe what about, I'm just thinking that maybe too easy now is keep on doing what we are doing, and this could be a very interesting loop in a way. That's, yeah, it will take some time for all of us, I guess, to reconsider and see where we will go, and in the future.